A wee story. Once upon a time, there was a young prince. He was very handsome, except for one thing. He had a very badly twisted spine. This birth defect caused him great sorrow. It also kept him from being the kind of prince he really wanted to be for his people. One day, the king commissioned the best sculptor in the kingdom to make a statue of the prince. It should portray him, however, not with a twisted back, but with a straight spine. The king wanted the prince to see himself as he could be. When the sculptor had completed his work, it was a truly magnificent statue. It was so lifelike and such an incredible likeness of the prince. The statue was placed in the prince's private garden, and each day, when the prince went to the garden to study, he looked longingly at the statue. Then one day he noticed that when he looked longingly at the statue, his heart beat faster and his whole body tingled. Months passed. Soon the people began to say to one another, "The prince's spine doesn't seem as twisted as it used to be." When the prince heard this, his heart beat even faster and his body tingled even more. So the prince began to go to the garden more frequently. He would spend hours standing before the statue, studying it closely and meditating on it. Then one day, a quite remarkable thing happened. The prince found himself standing as straight as the statue. So why that story this week? Well, the story is sort of a parable of human beings. We too were born to be princes and princesses, but we too had a defect that kept us from being the kind of person that we're meant to be. And then one day, the Father sent his only Son into the world. Jesus is the perfect image of what you and I and all humans were meant to be. He stands spiritually tall and erect, morally sound, a person who walks the walk and talks the talk of love, humility, compassion, and justice. When we look at Jesus and meditate on his perfection, our hearts beat faster and our bodies tingle. We begin to dream, just like the prince, as being as good as the model. But that's as far as the story goes. It's still unfinished. Whether we become like Jesus or not is still to be decided. Whether our particular story will have a happy ending is still to be determined. So there's a great big question there. What can I do? What can you do to guarantee that the story will have a happy ending like the prince? The answer's simple. I have to do exactly what the prince did. Just as the prince studied and pondered the statue, so I have to study and ponder Jesus. Jesus says in the gospel this morning, "Learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart." The best way to learn about Jesus is to study the story of his life and work. Principally, we find this in the gospel. We know that the core, the very heart of the gospel, is the commandment of Jesus that we love others. The rest of the gospels flesh out how Jesus did that in his life. During this time of lockdown, we have a wee bit more free time than might be normal. Perhaps you would consider joining with Father Mike and myself and make a commitment to read the gospel for each Sunday, but to read it during the week before we hear it on the webcast or in the church building, whenever that happens. I don't mean just reading the words, but also trying to get ourselves into the passage, trying to feel a real part of the scene. Meditating's a bit like daydreaming. It actually gives you a heartwarming feeling. And secondly, we're going to try to do an act of kindness that we wouldn't normally do. Experience tells us that doing an act of kindness actually makes us feel really good. So it's no hardship, really, spending time daydreaming and helping others and getting a really warm glow in our hearts and feeling our bodies tingle. It should be a good week. Will you join us?